So recently a discussion popped up online about a VTuber cover of the song Birdbrain performed by Nerissa Ravencroft from Hololive Advent. And what started as a simple discussion about a cover quickly turned into something much bigger, a debate about Vocaloids, human singers, VTubers, or fantasy in music, and, because it's the internet, some completely unhinged takes. So let's break down what actually happened. The original post sets the tone with a pretty provocative claim. The poster argued that whatever the VTuber covers a Vocaloid song, they get completely mocked by the original. Their argument was basically that these songs were designed for synthetic voices and therefore human singers can't really compete with them. Right away, that kicked off the classic divide you see in music communities. You know, the original is sacred and stuff, camp versus the covers can improve things camp. Some people immediately pushed back against the idea. One commenter pointed out that good covers can actually surpass the original version of a song. They even used the famous example of Johnny Cash's version of Hurt, which many people consider more emotionally powerful than the 9-inch original. In other words, covers aren't automatically worse, sometimes they reinterpret the song in a way that gives it new meaning. But the thread didn't just stay on that level, of course. A big part of the debate became whether Vocaloid songs are actually meant to be sung by humans in the first place. One side argued that songs written for Vocaloid rely on qualities that synthetic voices can produce more easily. You know, extreme pitch, robotic tone, perfectly controlled timing. When a human singer tries to replicate that, it can sound straight or natural. And some commenters argued that Nerissa's cover had exactly this problem. They criticized the high register she used, saying it sounded swirl or forced. Now before you go, if you made it this far, you clearly enjoyed this kind of breakdown. So again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to directly support what I am building here on this channel, check out the donation links in the description. It really helps me to keep these videos coming. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening and have a good day. But then someone else stepped in with a much more detailed explanation of what might actually be happening musically. According to that commenter, the vocal style in the song isn't a mistake or a limitation, it's intentional. Because the technique they described is something called a stressed accent. The idea is to sing in a tense, emotional high register to convey desperation or instability. In this interpretation, the roughness of the voice is actually part of the artistic intent. The song itself is supposed to feel chaotic, flawed, and emotionally messy. So instead of the singer Nerissa failing to hit the notes, the performance might actually be leaning into what is emotional instability. And that brings us to a bigger question the thread indirectly raises. What exactly do people want from covers? Some listeners want faithful recreations that match the original sound as closely as possible. Meanwhile, others prefer reinterpretations that emphasize the strengths of the new performer. And with Vocaloid songs, this tension becomes even stronger, because Vocaloids are essentially digital instruments designed for a specific aesthetic. Meanwhile, human singers, on the other hand, bring natural imperfection and emotional nuance. Depending on your taste, those imperfections can either make a cover feel more alive or make it feel like it's missing the precision of the original. Another interesting point would be that came up was vocal range. Some commenters claimed Nerissa simply could not hit the notes properly, while others pointed out she actually known for having a strong vocal range and has demonstrated that in many songs. So the disagreement was not really about ability, it was about stylistic choices. There were a lot of comparisons to other VTuber covers throughout the thread. Some people argued that certain covers by Hololive members actually improved on their Vocaloid originals, especially when the human voice added warmth or emotion to the synthetic voice. Others went the opposite direction and said that many Vocaloid songs simply do not translate well to human voices at all. And then, the discussion eventually spiraled into unrelated arguments about music taste, VTuber fandoms, even politics, and even whether Vocaloid music sounds good in the first place. which is honestly a pretty normal life cycle for internet discussions like this. But you know, if we step back for a moment, the real takeaway is not whether one specific cover is good or bad, it's the interesting part is how people approach music differently. Because some listeners value tactical accuracy, others value emotional delivery, and some want covers that stay close to the original, while others want artists who reinterpret the material. And when you combine Vocaloid culture, and VTuber fandom, you get exactly the kind of chaotic discussion this thread has turned into. And at the end of the day, the existence of all these different versions, original Vocaloid tracks, human covers, live performances, is actually part of what makes the scene interesting. Because each version shows a different way of interpreting the same song. And whether you prefer the synthetic precision of a Vocaloid or the emotional roughness of a human performance, that is ultimately just a matter of taste. But one thing is certain, if you ever want to see the internet argue about music where hundreds of comments straight, just mention a VTuber covering a Vocaloid song. Trust me, works every time. Now before you go, if you made it this far, you clearly enjoyed this kind of breakdown. So again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you want to directly support what I am building here on this channel, check out the donation links in the description. It really helps me to keep these videos coming. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for listening and have a good day.